If you do go on to enjoy today's video, do me a favour and hit that like button and of course subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. And if you want to avoid the random lottery that is FIFA points, you can go straight to the source with u7buy.com, and of course you can use the code TVM at the checkout to get yourself a discount. What is going on, guys? TVM here. Welcome back to another video. With the success of the video that I did the other day, I'm thinking it was something like It's Not Hard EA. Basically, I went through a few of the players they could have included into Winter Refresh quite easily with like 30 minutes research, but they didn't, and they went a completely different way with it, which no one cares about. The other thing they could do to maybe, I don't know, spice up Team of the Week a little bit, because Team of the Week is dead. Every single week, you're clutching at straws. There's only maybe one or two cards in every single Team of the Week that comes out that you're interested in. And it's because they stick to a really rigid criteria. Unless they get 2 or 3 goal contributions, more often than not, they just don't get included. There are plenty of players out there who should have at least 4 or 5 informs right now because they are absolutely killing it. But EA don't ever look at them. A, because they don't play in the top 5 leagues, or B, because they just don't meet their archaic criteria, basically. So what I've devised, I guess, is a card type and potentially an SBC. So on screen, you're seeing most consistent Carlos Vinicius. Now, I made this myself, so it might not look very good, but still. Carlos Vinicius is a player who this season has got 14 goals and 4 assists in 11 starts with 19 games played total. So he's come on as a sub 8 times. He only plays average of 55 minutes, and he's somehow still the Portuguese league top goal scorer. Well, one of them anyway. He's got 14 goals. The guy is absolutely on fire. But he only has 1 inform, right? Now, that inform is completely useless. I think it's a 79 rated card. Absolutely useless. I would say that if EA came out once a week and said, look, here is an SBC for a most consistent player, don't make them too expensive because they're not going to be too high rated. A most consistent player who is doing very, very well right now but doesn't meet the criteria that we have, but is still banging them in and playing really, really well and achieving high scores. Make them go up 3 overalls in terms of inform. So, for instance, if Vinicius did get himself an inform this week, he's not going to, but if he did, this would be the card. Now that, in my opinion, is not a good card. No one is going to want to go and use that. Apart from maybe a Benfica fan who would quite literally force himself to go and use it, no one would go out and buy it because his dribbling is going to be terrible, his stamina is probably quite low, his passing is awful. So that's 1 inform. Then in maybe a month's time, he'd get a 2nd inform, and that's what it would look like. It's a little bit better, but by the time he gets that, it's going to be end of March. And by which time, it's even worse again, because his dribbling still isn't there, his passing still not quite good enough. Okay, his shooting is much better, and his physicals have improved slightly. But, again, unless you're a Benfica fan, you don't care about that card. Now, if you were then waiting again for him to get an inform, that's where we meet up with our most consistent card. Now, the card design and all the rest of it is completely irrelevant. The card itself, okay, that's maybe pushing it a little bit. His inform probably wouldn't even look like that. His inform would probably be a bit worse off. But that is just one option of one player they could introduce as an SBC. They could even take it one step further and put them into packs if they wanted to, maybe 1 or 2 every single week. But more importantly, it would give an added element to Team of the Week. So we're not just getting a 23-man squad of 90% unusable cards. We're now going to guarantee to get ourselves a usable card that deserved to be there. Another player to give us an example is Joao Pedro of Cagliari. He hasn't actually done too well in recent weeks, in like the last 2 or 3 weeks. But before that, again, banging them in. 14 goals, 2 assists in 24 starts. He has played every single game so far this season, I believe at least, for Cagliari, and he's doing very, very well with it as well. And he only cost them 1.3 million back in 2014. But he has 1 inform this year, which I think is an 81 rated, potentially. But it's not a very good card, and it's just not usable. At least this one would make it so that it is usable. Very good finishing. Good dribbling, decent passing. Okay, his physical's not quite there. His pace is a little bit off the boil for what people want this year in FIFA. But still, it's not an unusable card. So this would be his 2nd inform, which, let's be honest with each other, not great. Pace is lacking. Physicals are probably going to be poor. The passing is okay. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that, really. But again, for a striker, you could maybe expect more. But that's the 2nd inform. okay, maybe it would go to an 84 rather than an 83, but I'm just sort of going on along a rough line of what EA would give. An 85 rated card then would be the third inform, and given now that we are 18th of February, it's very similar to Carlos Vinicius. In fact, it's almost identical. You'd be waiting until at least mid to end of March to get this card, and he is one of the top goal scorers in Serie A right now, and he plays for a team that are doing a little bit better than what they're meant to be doing. So I feel like he deserves to be rewarded, and then that meets up, of course, with the card that we've given him, which, okay, is a little bit more than what the third or the fourth rather inform would actually be, but either they put them in packs or they make them available as an SBC. Now, if they make them available as an SBC, in my opinion, they can't be too expensive, because I feel like this should be some sort of like give back token from EA. Really, they've not done an awful lot of that this year. You know, they forewent, however you want to say that, the Luna stuff. You know, we were all expecting a free 125k pack. They sort of just knocked that on the head, and they've not really quote unquote given back anything this year. This is a card type that they could easily just slot in once a week. Just one card. Put it into an SBC. I've got 2 requirements down there. Maybe it's 2 83 rated teams. For someone like Linsen, 1 requirement, 82 rated team. Maybe with an inform if you're really nitpicking. But Linsen is actually in contention for an inform this week. But it was a player who I think is top goal scorer in the Dutch league right now, and again doesn't have an inform and is still a silver card. And it's an absolute travesty. That's the card a little bit closer up. So again, it's not like 100% usable, and it is a little bit more than what an 83 rated card would be. But I'm saying go a little bit overboard with this card, or with this card type, you know. Give us something that's a little bit more extravagant. It's still not it's not an end game card. It's not a game breaker. Not everyone's going to go out and get this and put it straight into their team. If you're a Vitesse fan, you will. But other than that, you might be thinking, oh well, I'll pick it up. It might be all right for Dutch first owner or something. Dessers is another player who is doing some unbelievable work this season. And the card reflects that as well, because that's a card I would actually like to try. Okay, his passing's not quite there, but again, it's only an 84 rated card. I think he's got 1 inform this year, so this would maybe be a little bit higher. I'm not sure. But either way, he's got 14 goals, 5 assists in 23 games this season. 25 years of age in the Dutch league. Okay, again, it's not like he's playing in the top league in Europe, and that is an unbelievably impressive record, but it's still a good record and deserves to be recognised. This player has come from absolutely nowhere this season as well. Lees-Melou of Nice. Now, he's only really come into the team properly since Cyprian had his injury, but he still, even with a bit part this season, has been absolutely ridiculous. 6 goals, 5 assists from more of a CDM role than anything else, but as a central midfield player, that would add so much to a lot of people's teams, like even me, right? Now, I've got a pretty damn good team, but one of my favourite players is Aouar. Now, Aouar is, again, only an 87 rated card, and on paper he's good, but he's not amazing. But this, with that, and I'm not a Nice fan, I'm not really a French football fan in general. I'll watch it, and I'm happy to watch it, and I love collecting the data and the stats and looking at things like this. But that Lees-Melou in a team with Aouar, and maybe Kante in there as well, they all link together. It would be fun to use. Okay, it's not completely end game, but again, it would be a lot of fun to use. And our final player we're going to pick up is Pizzi. A very consistent player over the last, well, I would say 5, maybe even more seasons. And yeah, a lot of people will discredit what he does in Portugal because they don't class the Portuguese league as a good competitive league. But it is. I think it's a decent league that often gets overlooked, and Pizzi is just killing it again this season. 20 goal contributions in 20 games. I mean, that if he played in the Premier League, he'd have 4 or 5 special cards by now. Timo Werner form, that is. And Timo Werner had an upgrade, and he's got 3 or 4 special cards. It's wrong that they don't reward these players, especially not because Pizzi doesn't care. Him personally, massive paycheck. He's currently, I don't know, sat on a beach somewhere relaxing, right? But fans of that club, fans of those players who play the game, will care that they never get special cards. So I'm not necessarily saying that EA need to just fill Team of the Weeks with, outside of the top 5 league cards, but they need to include them a bit more. The Team of the Week as a whole needs a massive revamp. It's outdated, the criteria doesn't work, it's a lazy system. But even if this season they don't address it, this type of card would at least give back a little bit to those players who miss out week in, week out. And I'm not saying that they all need to be outside the top 5 league cards either. You know, I've included Joao Pedro, and I've got Lees-Melou in there as well, and there's a few other players in mind that I could easily have included. Just go watch the Winter Refresh video, and you'll see that you know, all those cards realistically could have been given, or these type of cards. And I wouldn't say it's a promo. What I'd like to see is maybe 1 or 2 included every week in the actual team. So a 23-man squad for Team of the Week, and then an additional card popped in packs, like for instance Pizzi's in packs, and then they bring out Joao Pedro as an SBC. Every single week, 2 cards, 1 in packs, 1 as an SBC, maybe even 1 as an objective on a Wednesday as well. So there's 3 of them, and they've been upgraded by 3 overall informs. So, you know, we've already been through it, but if you were waiting for Joao Pedro to get 3 informs, he would then maybe have a card that would be a little bit worse off than what this 86 rated card would be. But give him that, you know, boost of 3 informs to make up for the lack of times that he should have had it, but was either outshone by a certain player, or EA have just been incompetent and not given it to him. That's my 2 cents. That's my thought process. If you want to see a full list of these type of players who should have had informs by now but haven't had them because EA's criteria is just archaic, then feel free to let me know by hitting the like button and by leaving a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and until the next time, goodbye.
Football Index. The game changed. Download the app now.